is that whenever you look for a guild, you're looking for a guild for yourself, and they're looking for a player for you. This is a two-way exchange here. This isn't like, oh, you're signing your life away to these people to get nothing out of it. No, they're trying to give you something, and then you get something out of it. Okay, so don't ever have this like self-esteem bullshit where, oh, I'm not good enough for that guild. Fuck that. Just apply to the guild. You know, if you have the numbers, if you have the parses, man, you can do it. Like, don't even let anybody tell you differently. A lot of guilds, what kind of defines if they're a good guild or not, like, let's just be fucking real here, is how much they raid. Indestructible, the guild that I'm in, we raid 12 hours a week, and that is 3 nights a week, 4 hours each night. Okay? And so obviously, we're not going to be doing as well as a 5 night guild, and a 5 night guild is not going to be doing as well as a 7 night guild, right? So it's not a coincidence, guys, that if you go on like Wild Progress or something like that, all of the best guilds raid the most. Like it just turns out that way. No, that's not a fucking coincidence. It takes a long time to get stuff done, and whenever you have more time, you can get more stuff done. And so what this comes to you is deciding how much you want to raid. Okay, and this is really important because if you raid too much, you're going to burn yourself out, and if you raid too little, you're going to be dissatisfied with your progression most likely. And so anyway, one thing, like, this is how I want people to look at it, all right, is that, like, let's say you're out jogging, right? Not me, obviously, like, I never fucking do that, but I mean, like, if you're, like, you see a person out jogging, or you know somebody that's jogging, or let's say you do that, you're not a fat, lazy asshole like I am, and you see them jogging, like, people in there are jogging, they got their iPhones on, listen to the Rocky theme song, you know, in their headphones and all that, thinking they're fucking Usain Bolt winning the Olympics. But are they? No, they're just some idiot walking around, like, kind of quickly, in the on the sidewalk. This is not really a big deal, right? But everybody has that aspiration. But the fact of the matter is, nobody really wants to get out and run around for 8 hours a day. That's probably what he does. Or do a bunch of training. I mean, like, if you to be the best, you have to be obsessed, okay? And that's really what it comes down to. If you want to be in a good guild, you got to raid all the fucking time. Paragon, like you watch like Paragon kill fucking Heroic Ragnaros, right? World first Heroic Ragnaros, and you see yourself, and you imagine yourself, be like, that could be me right there, the mage, because you're a mage too, you know, that could be me casting Frostbolts. Well, guess what? What you don't want to be you is that mage that's dead on the ground in front of where Heroic Ragnaros is 50 fucking times before then, and also this was 5 nights before that of also 50 times of wiping, and like I think they wiped like 500 times or something like that to the same boss to kill it. Like, that's not very fun, really. And so if that is fun to you, go apply to Paragon. But if you're like the other 99.9%, you should look for a guild in between that, okay? And that's really what I'm talking about. Is if you raid way too much, you're just going to burn yourself out, and you're going to hate the game, and you're going to quit. So it's going to suck for you, and it's going to suck for the guild, right? So it's pretty obvious. Now, the main thing here that you want to look for, as I said before, is times. And so how often can you raid? And, guys, this game, it's a game, guys. It's a game. Like, don't say, well, I work on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, so I want to find a guild that raids 4 nights a week, you know, Thursday to Sunday, right? That's not what you should be doing, because then you're going to have no time to do anything else except for play a fucking video game. And while, all right, I'll tell you guys like a personal story here. Back in the day, before I joined Indestructible, I was in a guild called Overdose, okay? And I was in that guild for like 5 years, okay? I know everybody in that guild, and we raided on Sunday night, and we raided on Monday night, and we raided every fucking night until Thursday night. And we had Friday and Saturday night off, and that was it, okay? All the rest of the nights, those were scheduled raid times, by the way. I mean, if you're raiding 5 nights a week, the odds are you don't fucking have anything else to do, and so you're probably going to be raiding more than that. So if you're like me, like I was in high school, right? And like I didn't really do a lot of shit in high school except for play video games and fix computers. And so I was raiding on Friday and Saturday too on my alts, okay? And it was great. Like, let me tell you guys something. It was fucking great. But I don't really have a lifestyle that can support that anymore. And the odds are that you guys probably don't either. And so whenever you make that decision, and also, guys, even if you do have a lifestyle that supports that, do you really want to raid 5 nights a week? That's a lot. That's a lot, because it's like now, like, I play more than 5 nights a week. I play every night. I play pretty much every night. But if, like, I just say, hey, I want to just go sit on my chair and masturbate with my bunny rabbit, like, I can fucking do that whenever I want, because I'm not tied to the game. What I'm talking about is this is a commitment. And so whenever you're ready to make the commitment, you definitely need to decide how much of a commitment you want to make. And so that's really important, guys. I keep talking about this. I keep talking about it because it's important, okay? I have some buddies. I'm going to do one more example, then I'm going to go to the next thing. I have some buddies, and they are like bodybuilders. I think one of them is like a model at Abercrombie and Fitch. He was. I don't remember exactly what the status on that is. But anyway, so obviously they work out a lot. And this started about 3 years ago, okay? And they would always ask me to go to the gym with them, and I'd be like, okay, you know, whatever. I'll just go to the gym and fuck around for a while with you guys, and then we'll get Taco Bell afterwards. And so that's pretty much what I did. And what I kind of learned is that for them, it wasn't just about going to the gym for 2 hours and getting on all the machines. You know, they had these regimens where, you know, Monday they're going to do their arms, Tuesday they're going to do chest, you know, Wednesday is leg day, and Thursday is like shoulders and like back, and I don't even know how many other things. And they have like one day off. And also, yo, guys, this is what bothered me, is that whenever I said, let's go to Taco Bell, they said, no, I can't go to Taco Bell because I'm on a diet. Okay, like I'm not one for diets. Like if I ever get fat, I'm probably going to just keep getting fat because I love eating whatever the hell I want. And so I didn't want to trade away, you know, that freedom of eating what I want to potentially a better physique. I guess to an extent, obviously, like at some level I would, but at a lot of levels I won't. Okay, and how that correlates to WoW is that if you want to be very good at the game, you want people to say, wow, you know, you're amazing or whatever, you know, have like the best gear in the game, you're going to have to spend a lot of time on the game. You're going to have to spend time looking at fights. You're going to have to spend time like doing research outside the game because it's not just raiding. And also, guys, I mean, like if your raid is for 4 hours, I mean, you should budget at least 5 hours because it's not like you're going to log on right the second that the raid starts, and then the raid is going to end the exact second that the time it says like 12 o'clock at night or whatever, whenever your raid ends. Okay, so there's a lot of time you're going to be spending on the game whenever you're raiding, okay? And so before you decide, like, oh, you know, I want to do this, I don't want to do this, make sure that you find a guild that fits the amount of time that you feel that you would be comfortable raiding. Like, that's really what it comes down to, guys, and that's really all there is to it. That's the most important thing to say, because people take this game way too fucking out of context. Like, guys, this is a game. This is a fucking game. Don't even worry about it. Like, I tell people, like, look, let me show you guys something. I'm going to show you guys something because it's important, okay? Now, I tell people who take the game a little bit too seriously, I tell them, you know, like, lean back your chair, like I just did, and you do this. Watch. You turn your chair 180 degrees. It's not real. See, the game's not real. You see what I'm saying? Because it's on the screen. You're not even looking at it. See, it's gone. Game's not even real, okay? You gotta remember that shit. It's just a game. It's not real. Don't take it too seriously. And don't waste all your time playing it, okay? Unless that's really what you want to do. Make sure that's what you really want to do. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is how to actually get into the guild. This is whenever you picked out your guild, alright? So you're already through that. Now, the odds are you're probably getting into a guild that requires a guild application. And that's really what I'm going to be talking about. Now, the first thing that I want to say, I actually wrote out a written guide for this, and I might actually put that on, I don't even know, like maybe fucking like my Facebook page or something. I don't even know how I would put that up. I don't really have a website that would host it. But anyway, so what this is, what my guide was about was pretty much how to write a successful guild application. And writing a guild application is a lot the same way as writing a job application, because honestly, like, think about it, guys. If you're gonna spend, let's say, 15 hours a week raiding, like a part-time job, sorry, it's 20 hours a week, and there's some that, you know, you only work for like, you know, less than that. And so there are lots of jobs you fill out job applications for, and you're gonna be at this playing this video game more than you're at the job, right? And so it's not really that big of a surprise that people are gonna want you to fill out an application. And also, it kind of decides, it tells people, like, I do recruitment for my guild, and so I can kind of give you guys my insights on this, is if somebody doesn't know how to write a correct application, the odds are they're probably deficient at other things as well. Because if someone, like, let's say, for example, if someone doesn't use proper grammar, the odds are they're either 13, who I don't want in guild, I don't want anybody who's 13 in my guild, and number two, or they don't give a fuck. And so either way, it's a lose-lose situation, okay? And so no matter what it is, the odds are you probably don't want that person in your guild, okay? And that's something that obviously is what I'm trying to say, is it make sure that you communicate to the people who you are, I guess, like, trying to make an impression with, that you're an intelligent person, or at least that you're not stupid. Like, just go for not stupid, and you're probably going to be fine. The next thing here is that, like, yo, guys, you guys are going to be like, why is he saying this? You know, I'm going to be like the last person to be telling you guys this. Um, don't use profanity in a guild application. And obviously, a little bit is fine, but when you're like motherfucker this, you know, cockboy that, faggot that, you know, that's a little bit too much. And the odds are somebody like that is just fucking out of control, right? And you need somebody who's out of control. You need somebody that already has their has themselves under control. You don't need to fucking like tie somebody up, chain somebody up in your guild because they're fucking going crazy and shit, calling everybody a faggot. That's crazy. You don't want to have to deal with that. And so that's very important. Just don't keep that shit out of your application. Like if you really need to say fuck to communicate, maybe you should open up a dictionary. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is making sure that you have your parses, and also another thing, yo guys, I'm actually not even going to talk about the parses too much. Make sure you have parses for your application. If you don't even know what parses are, you probably shouldn't even be thinking about filling out an application. First thing, you look that up. Then you can figure that out. That's like the World of Logs applications, or not. Jeez, I'm fucking up everything. World of Logs parses, or Warcraft Logs parses. That's a new website that people are using. And so anyway, that's really all I'm going to say about parses. Just make sure you have parses that reflect how good you are as a player. And the next thing, guys, is that what I really look for in a player is that there are lots of people who can hit numbers, okay? There are a lot of people who can do math with their fingers, pressing buttons, killing monsters. There are tons of them, okay? They can do all kinds of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But what I'm really looking for is people who can actually, like, I guess, fit into our rating environment, and I guess, like, be able to, like, deal with things that maybe they don't want to deal with. Like, oh, let's say I didn't get any loot. You know, are you going to quit the guild? Well, if you're going to quit the guild, I don't want you to be in the guild in the first place. So this is what I'm talking about, is intangibles, okay? And intangibles, this is kind of like one of those things where people kind of, I guess, like think I'm an asshole because I think like this, but I think it's really important, and we don't really have a lot of idiots get into the guild. So at least I have that to speak to. So what I'm saying here is that whenever people usually a very common question is that what guilds were you in before this, and why are you leaving those guilds? It's very important not to ever say anything bad about the other guilds. And another thing, so like don't say, oh, they all fucking sucked, you know, I wanted to join a better guild. Even if that's true, even if you're totally better than they are, just don't say that, because it gives people a bad impression, okay? It gives people the impression that you think that you're better than everybody, and you're going to get into this guild, and you might think the same thing. And so that could lead to other problems, and so just, even if you do think that, keep it off the application. Another thing is that you want to not say anything, like people were like against you or something like that. Like I've seen, like people who, you know, I've always had this phrase, people who have problems are problems, okay? And what that means is if you're the kind of person that just, it's like this, it seems like this is like the kind of person that the shit always goes wrong with this person. Like bad things always happen to this person. And it's very important, guys, to be proactive, okay? Things don't just happen like that. Usually anybody, it's not like the entire guild. Like I've had people come and apply to the guild and say, you know, oh, the entire guild was against me, something like that. That is probably not true, okay? So even if you think that is true, keep it off the application. It's very important because it sounds like really childish, and also it sounds like you are afraid of taking blame. Also with like loot decisions, like even if somebody gave the loot, even if you're G-quitting because like you're not getting any loot, right? Don't put that on the application because it's just going to look bad. And so anyway, the next thing that we're going to talk about is, I guess, how to stay in the guild. Now, obviously, whenever you're gonna do the interview, and I don't really have a whole lot of things to say about that. Just don't act like an idiot. I don't really know what else to say. Just act like a normal person, and everything should be fine. But anyway, so how to actually stay in the guild. This is kind of important too. Is that the odds are you're going to get into a guild, you're probably going to have some sort of a trial period. And so in that trial period, they're going to judge you as to whether, you know, you're able to do the amount of damage that they want you to do, that you're able to, I guess, avoid all the mechanics, and just all the basic Warcraft stuff, right? And also they're going to judge, like, I guess, like how well you assimilate into the guild. Because if you wanted to play a game with robots, you'd be playing Skyrim or fucking Guild Wars or something like that, where you can just hire out, you know, mercenaries to do the quests with you. The reason people are playing WoW and raiding is partly for a social aspect. And so try to be social in the guild. And especially this comes important whenever like they're going to kick you, somebody's going to kick you out of the guild or something like that. If you got your boys that are behind you, there's going to be a lesser chance for them to kick you out, right? Because they don't want to piss a lot of people off. That's kind of the way that we look at it too. And so anyway, that's also important. Make sure that you make friends in the guild. It's as much them interviewing, I guess, like them trialing you as you trialing them. And so make sure that this is a good fit for you, and they'll make sure that they'll decide whether you're a good fit for them. And so anyway, another thing is you want to always have like your flasks and food. And I'm not really going to spend a whole lot of time talking about this because this is just common sense, guys. Like, come on, for real. Like, know the fights, have your consumables, and just be ready to do. Just it's like, ask yourself what is going to be the least trouble for everybody else to deal with me, right? And so that's if you have your foods, you just show up and it's done. Like, if I could have that whenever I did a raid, that would be amazing. That would just be amazing, right? And it's never going to happen either, by the way. And so anyway, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I really have to talk about here. There are a lot of things that really have to do with, like, I guess, like getting into a guild and joining it and like deciding what guild you're going to be in. And I really, like, let me see how long this video is. I don't even know how long it is. 18 minutes. Yeah, that's kind of long. And so I think I'll kind of wrap it up here. If there's any other like questions or like kind of subcategories that you guys want me to talk about, just go ahead and let me know. And I'll probably do a video about that too. Like, I don't know. I don't even know what it would be. Just like more like inner guild relation stuff. I can definitely do a video about that because I've been in guilds. I've been playing the game for a very long time. And so I've got a pretty good handle on kind of what's going on. And so if you guys want me to do that, I can do that as well. But hopefully this is a good first step. And hopefully you guys, I guess, like figured out what you wanted to know, I guess, hopefully at least. And so anyway, guys, that's pretty much all I've got. And so if there are any more videos, we're going to be doing those pretty soon. But if not, well, there's probably going to be more videos. You guys know that. So anyway, I will probably cut this off right now so it doesn't just go too long. So anyway, thanks for watching, and like, comment, subscribe.
What's up, y'all? It's me, it's your boy Asmongold, and today I figured I'd talk to you guys about cliques and guilds and how to deal with them. This is going to be one of my guild leadership or guild management videos, and whenever I make one of these, people have a tendency to get pretty fucking pissed off, and so I just kind of want to let you guys know what to expect before I really get into the video too much. Now, the first thing I do kind of want to do is I want to define really the way that I'm going to be using clique in this video, so you guys know really basically what I'm talking about. And so a clique is within a larger organization, and so obviously in this video we're going to be using a raiding guild, but you can see this in workplaces and schools with like in crowds. This is basically just a human phenomenon for no other reason. I think it's basically a survival mechanism, and so it's very core to the way that people act. And within this larger group, you see a smaller group of people, and in the raiding guild, maybe 3 to 4, 6 to 7 people that keep to themselves, very close knit, don't really talk to a whole lot of other people within the guild. It's like kind of a guild within the guild. And so this can obviously, not all cliques are bad for guilds, of course. But as a general rule, I would say that cliques are more often than not toxic to guilds. Now, this is going to be mostly, I'm going to be approaching this from more of a leadership management perspective, but I do want to kind of address a lot of you guys that aren't really in that position who have to deal with this anyway. And oftentimes, cliques are also linked with one person in the officer corps or something like that. And oftentimes, like, somebody will come into a guild and they're not really part of the in crowd. You know what I mean? And so sometimes, like, this happened. I was actually part of this whenever I was a lot younger, not really smart or anything like that. And I was in, like kind of like the in crowd. And so somebody else would come into the guild and they would basically just be a tool for us to advance ourselves. And so make sure that you don't join a guild. And if you are in a guild where you feel like you're basically just a tool to advance the in crowd, you probably should open up WoW Progress and look for another guild, because there's really not a lot that you can really do to stop that, to get people out of their ways. And what happened with my old guild is I left the guild after I kind of realized how much this was torpedoing our chances of success and really just kind of the environment in the guild. And that guild ended up breaking up, as almost all of them do over time. And so toxic people end up poisoning themselves after they run out of people outside around them to also ruin their time time as well. And so my best advice to you guys, if you're in a situation like that, don't try and change them. Don't fight. Don't fight the good fight. Don't do anything like that, because it's really just not going to make a difference. They are stuck in their ways. These are probably 20, 30, 40-year-old adults, that they're going to be doing what they're going to be doing, and nothing really you can do is going to be able to stop that. So my advice to you, again, is just find another fucking guild, because it's a horrible situation where you put yourself in. You don't get loot. You don't get in for progression bosses that you need. It's just, a vicious cycle, and it's going to make you hate yourself and hate the game. And so I do kind of want to give you guys also some examples, and this is that's basically what I have to say for you guys if you're not really in that leadership position, and the rest of it is basically just kind of my methodology for dealing with these kinds of situations. And so the first thing, not first, I've already said first thing 2 or 3 times, but besides that, some of the different examples I guess I can use that are negative and toxic to a guild environment, and actually run counter to the purpose of a guild. And so one of the things that people in these cliques like to do, and so these are good ways, if you don't know if you're part of a clique or part of a guild that has this, let me know if any of these ring a fucking bell. So people in the guild have a special channel, like how you have /1 is general, /2 is trade, /4 is general chat. I think it's /5. Well, it doesn't even matter what /5 is. But these people have /7 or something like that, and it's kind of a secret channel that them only 4 or 5, and everybody in this little clique has access to, but not everybody does in the guild. And so this is just one example. Another example is people in Ventrilo. They have binds, which is kind of a private speaking where you can speak directly to one person if you hold down Control R or something like that. That's another example of kind of cliques and kind of groups within groups. And again, that kind of just runs counter to the whole teamwork, cohesive element of a guild that's very necessary for it to succeed. And another example is for people to be doing Skype conversations over, Mumble or over Ventrilo. This was an issue in my guild, and I was very outspoken about it, and I really didn't like it, because again, I think it really it just kind of undermines the main most important thing of a guild is you never really it's cars are not really tested for their safety unless they're getting hit, right? Because it doesn't really matter really how strong a car's they're how easy it is for a car to protect somebody if it's not getting hit, right? If you're just driving around, nothing's really hitting the car, it doesn't really matter. What I'm really trying to get at here is that, things are tested, the strength of your organization, the strength of your guild, the strength of yourself is really only tested whenever you're put in a difficult situation. And so, whenever you are put in those difficult situations, and your guild will no doubt be in those difficult situations, you come up to a hard boss and you just can't really make it. And at that point, you really need to have everybody come together and everybody work together, and you need to be playing on the same team. And whenever you have teams within teams, groups within groups, you have this very strong propensity to create an us and them mentality, which again is it's exactly counter to the very nature and the core element of what is most important for building teams and making sure that you're successful. And I've been a part of these secret channels, these secret Skype calls. And I don't really like to beat around the bush. I don't really like to talk a whole lot of bullshit. I don't like to pretend what I can't see, what's right there in front of me I can't see. Most of the time, people have those little channels, those little Skype calls, little binds to talk to each other, to shit talk other people in the guild, and to complain about how things are going. Nothing good can come of that. Nothing good can possibly come of small little groups of people shit-talking other people who aren't in this small little group. It's not good for anybody, okay? It will not be good for the success of your guild in the long term, and it's also not good really for that group of people. It will make them want to quit the guild. It's also not good for the people who are outside of it, because eventually they're going to find out, and then that creates more drama. Again, it's just very important to promote cohesiveness and one team, one goal, okay? And that's really kind of where I really kind of want to, give you guys a window into the way that I look at solving problems, and how I advise everybody else to solve problems. I'm very goal-oriented, objective-oriented whenever whenever I do something pretty much for the guild or for anything like that. And I ask myself this one question that, actually it's from Office Space actually, almost. Is this good for the guild? And whenever you see somebody who is talking to like their friend and saying how bad everybody else in the guild is, that's just not good for the guild. And so that's really kind of how I would encourage everybody who's in any sort of leadership position. Make sure that you put the needs of the many above the needs of the few. And by doing that, you can kind of rule out and make things a lot simpler. A lot of people kind of have moral or ethical problems with like kind of getting rid of somebody or something like that. But whenever you look at kind of what really, why are you in charge of this organization? It's everybody is at least passively, but more often than not in a more organized organization, has collectively decided to make you the leader, give you some sort of authority, to give you basically the power. You're basically the keeper of the flame here, and you can't really betray those people just by allowing yourself to kind of give people the benefit of the doubt. And sometimes it is good to give the people the benefit of the doubt. It's really a case by case basis, and so I do want to say that as well. Anything that I say in these videos is always open to interpretation by each direct event and each individual event, and you have to look at each one differently. But what I really kind of want to give you guys is a framework for how to really structure your decision making skills. So make decisions that are based on the betterment of the majority of people and what is going to be best, what will make not just you, not just them, but everybody successful. And after you do that, after you realize what your real goal is, these other kind of minor real issues like that are not really as big of a deal, and it's much easier to kind of discard them or figure out what side of the fence you want to go on whenever you're making those decisions. Again, I do want to say that, of course, like whenever you ask somebody about this stuff, they're not really going to kind of like say that, oh, hey, we're talking shit about people, in their special channel or something like that. But again, I want to urge you guys to make decisions based on rules and not exceptions. And so while that might be a possibility, it's probably not a probability. And so as an officer, one thing you could do is ask to be part of that channel, just so you know kind of what they're talking about, or at least somebody who's like a trustworthy person who's part of your leadership core is part of those part of those channels, part of those discussions, so they know that no foul play is going on and you don't have this toxic mentality building up to where people don't even know about it. And so it's always good to kind of nip that shit in the bud before it really even happens. Again, do not make decisions based on exceptions, make them based on rules. And people are obviously going to tell you, I think this is also another thing that I really should say, is that people are going to tell you what benefits them. Whenever you compromise somebody, the odds are that they're going to do what's going to help themselves, and especially in a situation like this, whenever they don't really feel like they're on the same team as you, and they don't have necessarily the same goals. So I do want to say that right now, because it's very important to kind of, I guess like make your decisions based on actions and not on words. Don't let people tell you that you're not seeing what's in plain sight. And so anyway, another thing is that this is something that can kind of happen a lot with like bad players in guilds, and this happens also, in like workplaces where you have like an employee or something like that who's underperforming, and they kind of insulate themselves around other people in the hopes that insulation, those relationships will keep them from getting fired, because they may be friends with the supervisor or manager or whatever, or also other coworkers, and hopefully those coworkers would object if that person was disciplined or something like that. And so these players, it's like most people are not like really stupid. It's like when they consistently show up on 15th place on the DPS meter, they know that. Like they know that they're underperforming. And so they have to either, improve, and so that would be great, right? But that's not really going to happen. Usually it doesn't really happen. Also, what they will do is they'll insulate and make friends with other people and try to move into these cliques, so those cliques can kind of insulate them and secure their raid spot without actually having to do anything. Now, this is obviously a really shitty thing for people to do, and it's really disappointing that I have to make these videos and talk to you guys about this stuff, because I don't really know why people can't just improve, but it just doesn't really happen that way. And so instead of kind of pretending and thinking that everything should be this way, so it is, it's just not. And so it's important to, again, make sure that you're making your decisions and doing these things based on what is and not what should be. And so I'm going to kind of really skip over the method of talk to them and say that you don't really want them to do it, and then hopefully they won't do it again. Because usually what happens then is they just either make a new channel or they say they're not doing it anymore and then they still are, and it just also kind of creates a bit of confrontation. And really the best thing to do, as a general rule, guys, I want to tell you something. It's always better to stab somebody in the back than from the front, because if you stab somebody in the front, hypothetically, they have a chance to retaliate and respond to you. But if you stab them in the back, there's a good propensity and a chance that they won't actually be able to retaliate, and you can get what you're trying to do done without really a whole lot of trouble. Is this really a fair thing to do? Well, no, but it's not really fair for them to be sitting in your guild wasting everybody else's time either, is it? And so, again, greater good, do what's best for the most people. And so I really have two different methods of handling this stuff, and hopefully one of these two will work for you. There are a lot of other methods that you can use, but this is what's worked for me. Sorry, I don't know what is in my throat. Okay. So the first method that I'm going to really kind of talk about is, I guess, like my divide and conquer method, which really is where you remove players from the clique until it basically collapses. So I'll give you guys a personal example with myself and how we handled this in the past, and how these things, if they're not dealt with quickly and if they're not dealt with correctly, they can manifest to be bigger problems than they would potentially be. We had two people in my guild. This was at the end of Throne of Thunder, and they were causing a lot of problems. They were creating a lot of unrest. They were talking to people about kind of getting together and having those people threaten to quit the guild with them, to create some sort of an ultimatum, to create a power play, to do what was inevitably, like ultimately, not really in the best interest of the guild. And so what I had wanted to do is I had wanted to take those two people and at the start of the raid, public execution style, tell them, hey, we know exactly what you're doing in front of everybody. Say that, we know exactly what you're doing and you're not part of this guild anymore. Thank you for coming. You can leave at your own discretion over the course of the week, but there will not be a spot for you, in the next raid tier. And, there were a couple people, in like our core, like there were a couple people who wanted to do this. There's one guy who didn't. And so I didn't really want to step on any toes and do this, without really kind of a consensus. And so I kind of let this happen. And what ended up happening is later on, about 3 months later, those two people turned into 4 or 5 people, and all 5 of those people ended up leaving the guild. And the reason for that is because they had talked to those people and created this unrest, and they were in there talking to each other, after raids, complaining about how things were, and they did try and pull a power play, but obviously I was already ready for that and expecting it, so I had enough people to bring in to where we could take that loss. But it's always important to be proactive as well. That's, I think, really the main point that I'm trying to make here, is that you have to be proactive and replace people from the clique. That's really what we did, is we basically took the group of people that we thought were problem people, and then we would bring in one person and put one person who is not in the clique now in the raid, and then put the person who's in the clique out of the raid. And so now this creates a what's really the word for this? A conflict of interest between the people who are still in the clique, who also want to raid with the guild, because on one end what they can do is they can stay in the guild, and this is also a win-win situation for you, no matter really whatever way this turns out. So if they do choose to stay with the guild, obviously this strengthens their bond with the guild, because they've chosen staying with this group of people, over staying with this person who's also potentially toxic that you're getting rid of. And so that strengthens them, and so you keep that player, you get a new player who's better than the person you got rid of, and also you get rid of this person who is causing problems. The other thing that could happen is they could leave the guild because their friend's not getting enough raid time, or their friend no longer has a raid spot. That's also good, because if you have somebody who prioritizes their friendship over somebody else, over the success of the guild, obviously there are a lot of people who do that. Like, I know of some of my friends, like back in the day, if one of my friends got kicked out of the guild, if that happened, I'd have quit the guild too, right? And I would have done that without any real, malice or anything like that. But I would have, that's better for them, that they have somebody who's out of their team, who's not going to waste their time, by, staying in there and causing problems, and they can get somebody else in there who's more dedicated, who really cares. And so really kind of you're doing them a favor if you are going to be leaving and if you are in that position. And so either way, no matter what happens, this is going to be better for you. And honestly, this is like really kind of always a give and take. And I do want to emphasize this again because it is very important. And in any of these videos that I do, I just need to say this over and over just so people don't forget, is that this is very subjective and very situational. The way that I handle things is different than other people handle them, and just because I handle them this way doesn't mean that this is the best way. It just means that this is the way that I feel comfortable doing it, and also different strokes for different folks. And so, you have to handle each situation differently, but this is the way that I had done it. Also, as a general rule, whenever you create like kind of a clique like this, or you don't really create it, but it creates itself within the guild, it's always important to kind of, like whenever you are going to get rid of somebody, and this ties into the second, I guess, like method that I have, which is really kind of, let me think of like kind of the word for it, maybe like replacement, where you like replace people out of the guild, and that's basically the same thing, but you kind of, in the first one, you kind of